YouTube friends. I'm Heidi Villegas with Healing Harvest Homestead, and my Mr. V and I just got our seed starting set up for this coming year. And I love this time of year. It is so exciting because we're coming out of the dark winter. We're coming out of a very busy fall where we harvested and preserved our vegetables and our herbs. And it's time to start again. So this time of year is really fun because we get to choose our seeds and decide what we're doing in the garden, put a plan together. And of course, because our growing season is so short here, we must start many of our seeds indoors. So hence our seed starting setup here. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk with you today about some of the components of having a good seed start setup in your home if you are going to plan to start seeds. All right, so there are 12 different aspects to a seed start setup that you're going to want to consider and think about and be aware of and possibly include in your own setup. And that would be lights, shelving, hanging hardware, trays, some kind of a greenhouse setup for your seeds, the seeds themselves, a seed starting mix, what are you going to use, and plants, tags for the plants, labels, and heat mats. At least where we are, we need heat mats. I'll talk more about that. A thermometer, so you can check the heat mats, some kind of a watering system or a little spray bottle, and a fan for airflow. Okay, so those are like the main aspects of a seed start setup that you're going to want to consider. So let's go ahead and start with lights. You can get all kinds of lights on Amazon for your grow system, and most of them aren't expensive. You can also get very expensive ones too. These were not expensive. I think they were under $40 for a pack, and I believe a pack came with two. But these are LED grow lights. I like them because they're not super hot, like you can touch them, but they put out a lot of light and they do somewhat mimic the sun. So they're really nice. And you can, hang them the way you want. And we'll talk about that in a minute too. So right now we've got 3 shelves. We've got, you can't see this bottom one down here. With the grow light set up, and eventually as the season goes on, we'll be setting up another shelf as well. So, and this just brings me to mention that you really need to look at when you need to plant your seeds, because you're not going to plant all of your seeds at once because they germinate at different times and they grow at different rates. And so you need to know when to start them indoors. And I just want to show you this. Actually, I did another video recently about choosing your seeds, and this is one of my favorite tools. This is Clyde's garden planner. You can get it on Amazon. I think it's about $7. But it is good for all zones and all seeds, and it just gives you a great idea for when you want to start your seeds indoors. So this is a really indispensable tool, and I'll leave a link to that in the description in case you're interested in looking at it. So lights are very vital. A lot of people will think that they can leave their seedlings in their little trays in a window and hopefully they'll get enough sunlight. And I actually did this for a few years. The problem is that your seeds need a warm temperature, and many times, especially if you're in a cold place, that a windowsill is one of the coldest places in your house, especially in the nighttime when the temperatures drop. So, and they also just don't get enough sunlight. Like they need hours of sunlight a day to do really well and to grow quickly enough for them to be ready to be transplanted into your garden later on. So, hence the grow light system. So lights are number 1. Number 2 is shelving. I love these kitchen type utility shelves. They're on wheels, and every year we pull one of these out, sometimes 2, and this is what we use to start our seedlings on. They're easy to clean. They've got a nice grate, and you can adjust the shelves. So I really love this kind of shelving for starting seeds as well as just for storing stuff. You can get these at Costco or any hardware store. And the other thing is that as the plants grow, what will happen in these little pots is the tomatoes are going to end up being about 4 to 8 inches tall by the time we're planting them out. And so at that point, we're actually going to need 2 shelves set up. So this is just our initial seed start setup. All right, number 3 is hanging hardware of some kind. we keep things simple. This is just twine, and it's really easy to unknot and to adjust to raise and lower the lights and keep them even. So you can get fancy. There are chains, there are, pulley systems, there are all kinds of hanging hardware, but honestly, we generally just use some kind of a twine or something that's easy to untie and manipulate and move up and down. The thing about the lights and the hanging hardware, you want your lights to be about 4 inches above the seed in the pot. So, that way you can, make sure that the seed is getting enough light. So as the seed grows up, if it gets too close to the light, it can actually burn. So you need to just be ready to adjust your lights, and that's why the hanging hardware is important. All right, so next up are your trays. Now, the trays are great. You can buy these once and they last for years and years and years. But let me just show you what they can look. I have lots of different pots in here, so you'll see I'll show you some different pots for planting your seeds. But here we go with the trays. These little peat pots, and these are dissolvable and biodegradable, and you can just plant these directly into your garden. They come with some of these trays. Sometimes year after year after year, I'll just buy new things that fit into the trays. But what you want is, take this out of here. Okay, what you want is some kind of a sturdy plastic tray that can hold your pots. And these black ones are wonderful. You can buy them in most garden stores, and they're not expensive. So I like these because they have raised ridges on the bottom of them, and that really just helps with drainage too. There are those. Maybe some labels and fertilizer, and I'll go ahead and put these little pots back in here. The other thing that you're going to want for your plants is some kind of a greenhouse top. So many of these trays, not all of them, but most of them, they come with a top. This is a Jiffy brand, but there are other brands. And what happens with the seeds is you want to keep moisture in, and you want to keep warmth in, and these greenhouse tops help with that. So they don't need to be on tight, they can be on loosely, but it's important that you've got some kind of a system. In fact, I just want to say I do like them to be a little bit loose because you do need airflow on your seeds. All right, and I just want to show you this other little system here. These are wonderful if you're starting herbs or other small seeds. The only caveat with these is that the pots are plastic, so you need to kind of dig out the seedling when it is ready. But here's your black tray, here are your actual pots, and they do have drainage holes. And then you've got your top, and the top actually has holes in it for airflow. And then they also come with these handy little spinners so that you can adjust the amount of airflow that gets into the pot. So for starting herbs or more tender things, this is a really nice little setup. But I have to say that getting the seeds out of it at the end when you're getting ready to transplant them out is a little challenging. And while we're on the topic of pots, we just talked about those. There are different kinds of pots you can use. I've had success with all of them, so there's no one that's better than others, although most gardeners have their favorites. These are peat pots. They do break down in the soil very wonderfully, so you don't ever even have to pull the plant out of these. They tend to drain naturally through the bottom, and I really like these. I think that they're wonderful inventions and they make planting very easy, and they're not expensive either. So there are these. There are also different sizes of the peat pots. This is a larger peat pot, and these have drainage holes in them. Now, I like to use a slightly larger peat pot. I think this is about 2.5 inches in diameter for starting my tomatoes and my peppers, and that's because they grow pretty quickly. And what ends up happening is we start ours pretty early, just because our growing season is so short. I mean, we're done in September usually. I like to go ahead and start them in a pot where I'm not going to have to transplant them while they're still growing inside. So that's why I like the larger ones. But if you are in a warmer area, then you could probably just go with a smaller little pot. This is just a preference of mine. And you can buy these little peat pots in all different sizes. You can buy them as large as even 6 inches if you want to. But I have found that this is about the size I like to start them at. Okay, other choices. These are peat pellets, and peat pellets are great because they reconstitute in water. You just soak them and they puff up, and they are perfect for putting into trays and containers that have little slots or pods. These are also really great like this. They would just go right in there, and this is your soil. So it's not really the pot itself, it's the actual soil. And I'll talk more about soil when we get to that. But the other things you can use for pots, and this is really fun, is if you have chickens and you go through a lot of eggs, you can actually plant in eggshells. And what's really cool about this is that the eggshells are made up of calcium, primarily, like 98%, and they break down and they really help feed the soil too. And if you get egg cartons that are made of this biodegradable like pulp paper, you can just plant directly right into the egg carton as well. It makes it very easy and very inexpensive. Okay, I'll put these up here. What else? Oh, let me go ahead and just talk about a couple of other things. I found these a couple of years ago. These are actually made with cow manure. And I thought that was really funny. But so you can actually plant your plants in something that's going to fertilize them too. And this is what they look like. Cow. It's made with compostable manure. Really a great invention. Another option is to plant in coconut fiber. Okay, very porous, drains quickly, and you can plant these right in the ground as well. So this is coconut fiber, and really nice option. So far we've talked about the greenhouse tops, the trays. We've talked a little bit about the pots and the lights and hanging hardware. So now we're going to move on to the seeds themselves. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the seeds because I actually created a video about choosing seeds. So I just want to mention that it's likely that you're going to develop your own favorite companies to buy your seeds from, and that's great. We all have our favorites. My 2 favorites or 3 favorites are strictly medicinals for my medicinal herb seeds, and I do love Baker Creek for both vegetables and herbs, and I also love Botanical Interests for both vegetables and herbs. Those are my 3 favorite companies that I buy from every year. Another company I really like though for sprouting seeds and things like that is True Leaf Market. They're really great. So seeds are something you need to consider. And you can watch the seed starting video. I'll link to it. And if you are interested in knowing how I go about choosing my seeds and what I consider and how big of a pack I want to get of the seeds. Okay. Next up is your seed starting mix. Now, your seed starting mix needs to be sterile. So that means you don't want to go outside and just grab soil out of your garden to start your seeds. You will most likely, like 95%, have a big problem. Damping off, fungus, mold, things like that. You definitely want to have some kind of a sterile mix. You can make your own seed starting mixes with items like vermiculite, which helps to retain water, or perlite, which helps it to drain. There are a number of different ingredients that you can use to make your own seed starting mix. And although I've made some mix before, personally, it's just easier to buy it, and this is not expensive. So you can buy seed starting mix from different companies in your garden store, and honestly, they're all really great. They're all just fine, as long as they're sterile and are made with good components. So you need to have some seed starting mix. The other thing that you can use, like I mentioned, is these little peat pellets. And like I mentioned, these can just go directly into any little containers that you have. And these are wonderful. You just mix them up and They expand. The other thing you can use is core, and that's made of coconut fiber, and you can buy them in pellets, and like a pellet that's about this big and about that tall will make about 3 cups of seed starting mix, which is really helpful too. It's super easy to make and very compact. I buy mine from True Leaf Market, is where I buy my pellets from. All right, the next thing you're going to want, here, I'll talk to the camera. All right, the next thing that you're going to want to make sure that you have is some kind of label, okay? I've used popsicle sticks in the past. I've used these little plastic tabs that often come with the supplies. This year I bought these little fancy copper labels with a little pen, just because I don't like plastic. I just want to be more sustainable. So I've purchased these, and they're real pretty. But the thing is that if you are planting things like your heirloom tomatoes and your heirloom peppers and, you know, your different kinds of seeds, especially if you want to save the seeds later, then you want to have them labeled so that you know what the seeds are when you're saving them. The other thing is that I've had this happen to me in the past where the labels get lost or they get mixed up, and all of a sudden I've got this bed, a garden bed full of different tomatoes or peppers, and I'm not really sure what they are. and perhaps I really love one variety of the peppers, and if I don't know what it is, well then it's really hard to order the right one next year. So these labels are really, really important, especially when you're starting seeds, because you can't, all little seedlings look the same when they start coming up. they're not too different from each other. So labels are very helpful. So you're probably going to want to get a seed starting mat unless you're starting your seeds in an environment that's already pretty warm. Seeds really like to be at about 65 to 75 degrees maximum. That's in general. But you can buy these seed starting mats. This one's actually a pretty hot one. I've had the hotter ones worry me a little bit because you can burn your plants and actually fry them. And this is a hotter mat. But a good idea is to have some kind of a temperature gauge or thermometer so that you know how hot it is. I've laid a towel over these just to give the tray a little bit of a buffer between this heat mat and the bottom of the tray. And so this heat mat that we have here actually stretches across the whole shelf, which is really handy. You can also use reptile heat mats, like for terrariums and things like that. They will usually have some kind of a, what's it called? A thermostat that you can adjust, all right? So you definitely want to consider a heat mat, especially if you're in a cold place. This room that I'm standing in, it can get down to 40 degrees at night, and that is too cold for seedlings. So we must have our heat mats for our tomatoes and our peppers and things like that especially. We don't really need them for the cold season vegetables like the brassicas and the lettuces and things like that, the green leafy greens, but definitely for your tomatoes, your squashes, your eggplants, peppers, you're going to want to have some kind of a warm source or have a warm room where you can plant them. All right, so the next aspect to having a good seed starting setup is having a watering system. So watering systems can range from a simple water jug with a little pour spout to one of those, like they look like bug sprayers, and then you just kind of pump them, and that's what we use. Ours is broken right now. We have to go buy a new one. But you pump them, and it has a tube, and you can just literally mist a light mist of water onto your seedlings, and those are really wonderful. I found that with watering cans and things like that, you get too much water and you have less control, where with the sprayer you can just give them a gentle mist, and that's really all they need at first. So that's very, very important. You can also, if you're working with like your initial seeds and you're starting with moist soil, you can use just a spray bottle and give them a good spritz at first. but you're going to need more water, obviously, as the plants grow up. And I'll do some more videos as our seeds get going and get started, and we'll talk about all of that. It's very exciting, and I hope you do this with me this year. Finally, the last thing that you want to consider is some kind of airflow. So, like I just mentioned, these little greenhouse tops, I don't ever smash them on there so they're really, really tight. They're just loosely on there. The reason is you want some airflow. When your seedlings start sprouting, then you're going to remove these, and at that point you definitely just want gentle airflow. So some kind of a fan. It can be sitting in the corner, or like we have an overhead fan right up here that just we can turn on low, and it just moves the air, and it helps keep things clean, and it helps keep pests away too. Like those little fungus gnats love to get into the soil, and once they get started, it's really hard to get rid of them. So anyway, there you go. Those are the things that you're going to need for a seed starting setup. And now is the time to get going, especially if you're in somewhere like we used to live in Las Vegas, Nevada. If you're in zone 8, you probably might have been starting your seeds even in December or early January. But now is the time for us, because I like to get my plants to a good size before I set them out. Just because, again, our growing season is June, July, August, and a little bit of September, and that's about it. So we need to get ours up and going and started, and have some good sized plants come mid to end of May. All right. I hope that you will join our natural living community. We do have a garden topic area in there. It's free for everyone. I would love to see your pictures. So I'll put a link in the description below. So please join that. You can get my herbal remedy guide and cheat sheet for free. It's a gift from me. I also have a 5-day herbal course that you can take as well. It's free. It's via email, and there's a ton of information in it. So that it might be something you want to do. And I hope you will start gardening and growing your own vegetables, and definitely your medicinal plants. All right, until next time, I'm Heidi Villegas with Healing Harvest Homestead. Please subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.